Hello and welcome to Wait, It Gets Better, the improvisational storytelling podcast. We've been doing it for 5 years. We're going to do it for at least 5 more. I'm, of course, Levi.
I'm Reed.
And I'm Seth.
And we are here to tell you a story. This is the third week of this story. How are you guys feeling about it so far?
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Should we give a little recap to say how it's going?
Sure. I did it last time, so one of you better ante up.
Oh no. So
I'll see you a recap and raise you doing the recap.
All right, I'll take that burden. So this story is called Music Makes Magic. The world is a postmodern world. Not postmodern in like the philosophical thought process, but something terrible has happened. Something crazy has happened to the world. An indeterminate number of years ago, it was just the modern 2025 world, full of its strifes and joys and awesomeness and badness. But then natural disasters began cropping up. Strange disasters, not just like your sort of standard earthquakes in California, hurricanes in Florida sort of thing, but they started increasing in frequency and also increasing in strangeness. There was a lot of contributing factors, There was the magnetic pole shift was kind of confirmed and beginning to sort of take its toll on the world. The earthquakes were happening at frequent and infrequent times. Sort of people weren't able to predict when things were going to happen or not. Basically, our ability to kind of not dictate, but kind of estimate or forecast these disasters were beginning to change. It all came to a head when a giant hurricane, crossed the equator, which hurricanes typically don't do for some strange reason. I don't really know why. And was kind of headed towards, where did we say, Charleston?
I think so.
Yeah. So this lead scientist who was sort of studying these things, was kind of trying to find some way to deal with this, some way to forecast it. The government had kind of recognized him as the leading scientist, and he had an unlimited budget, the U.S. government, because the U.S. government has an unlimited budget. And it came to a head when he found this storybook that his daughter had by this little-known author. And the storybook, help me guys to remember exactly how this was, but the storybook kind of talked about all these different things as they were happening, kind of in a not fairy tale, but kind of in a sing-song kind of way. And what was happening was a magic system was emerging or re-emerging. The magic system is the power of positive thinking. No, the assertion of reality, right? So as whatever held the world together with this magic system before began to diminish, this magic system became kind of untethered from the world and started being able to be harnessed by people. So they be able to begin to kind of sing or chant or affirm things as real or not real. Like you could sing a song about how Seth was really great at pickleball and Seth would noticeably improve his game. And so this kind of scientist, using this book as kind of the guide piece, traveled to Charleston where this hurricane was going to make landfall and was able to use this sort of power to forestall the disaster. And that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, the thing that kind of kicked the magic system into full effect. Now, several years later, the world is kind of falling apart as the reality that held together like plant growth has diminished, and it only is sustained by people sort of affirming out loud and singing songs about and encouraging things like plants to grow or things like electricity to work. So the world is kind of fractured. There are still enclaves of humanity. The biggest one is in Charleston, where a incredibly popular kind of rock star, kind of musician, has been kind of using his sort of overall influence and his mastery of this power to kind of keep everything running there. The government type is Reed, how did you explain it? A kind of
Well, it's authoritarian. It's just authority resides in a single sovereign ruler. And basically, because of the emergency situation, power was granted. Justice is still a society-wide value. So the assumption is that rule is benevolent, and subjects have a right to petition those in authority for redress of grievances and whatnot. But the sovereign appoints magistrates to serve at his pleasure. So it's a top-down authoritarian, but it's just the idea being that you're not supposed to abuse this power. You're just supposed to use the authority that you have to deal with the emergencies as they arise.
Right. And the sort of plot of the story is this rock star has died, right? So the seat kind of power in at least North America has the sort of person who can wield this magic system the best, who has kind of used it to sustain a bit of humanity, is dead. And now from Charleston, sort of a call has gone out for people to find the books of lore. Basically, everyone knows about the scientist and this book from this author, but apparently she wrote other books. And so the idea is that they're offering a kind of a reward. They're offering a seat at the table. They're offering something. The government that has kind of the administrative part of the government that has kind of resided is like saying, we got to find a new pope, kind of. Mm-hmm. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to send out adventurers out into the world to try and find these books. Because if we can find them, I kind of like the idea. I'm inserting this now, that this rock star was he was the author's kid.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So he had kind of special knowledge. He had special insight. Does that make sense, Seth?
I've written down that this was called the Words of Power series. These books.
The Words of Power. So the series is called Words of Power.
Yeah.
Okay. And
I guess, I don't know. We haven't gotten to our story elements, but I don't know. We can see if it will go along with what I had in mind. But
okay, that's fine. I'm just trying to figure out a way why this rock star was able to sort of hold such sway. But anyways.
Well, I think that was explained in the thing, is that because of it, right, you have, it was kind of a critique on not music theory as in like actually learning music theory, but like the theory of what like music does and the influence of rock stars and the propping themselves up, through their music and stuff like that. And it plays into the magic system. So basically, I mean, think like Death Clock, right? Where it's like, not that they're directly self-promoting, but they become larger than life. And as it grows bigger, it just simply does that, grows bigger. And then like the world basically revolves around them, and if its whole economy and like what's happening in the world is all dependent on what this one rock band is doing.
Right. But so now people are being sent out. So I referenced the Wheel of Time, the Hunt for the Horn sort of thing, or One Piece, the hunt for the piece of 8, right? People are being sent out, and they know about the fact that this author lived in, I don't remember. It was like there was 3 different places.
Well, lived in New York, grew up in Minnesota,
and then she had a child or someone who had a house in, what was it? Did I say not Virginia? It was like Nevada.
I can't remember.
Anyways, there's 3 spots, and people know where 2 of them are. And so the story is going to revolve around an adventurer or a group of adventurers who are kind of going out to try and find this piece of lore. Some of them are trying to get power. Some of them are trying to restore the world. Some of them are trying to, do a little bit of both. Some of them are trying just to, get out of the house, find some purpose in their life. We don't have a hero as of yet. So then we had a quartet members, which is a pair of triplets who have some disabilities, but their unique bond allows them to create, to be incredibly powerful with this magic system.
Yeah.
We had a reoccurring character and a villain sidekick, and I think both of them were villain sidekicks, weren't they?
Well, the reoccurring character was the villain sidekick in a previous story, but he wouldn't necessarily have to. He was just kind of a bad guy. He was kind of your gang boss, taking advantage of anarchy, in a survival of the fittest sort of way, kind of ruling with terror and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, we established in the last episode that they had kind of brought him, that kind of a cult of people had kind of like summoned him from a different, because he's a reoccurring character, so he's from a different story. They had kind of summoned him, and they have to continue to kind of affirm who he is and like follow him around and like keep him in this world.
Yeah, he was actually from the story was City State Private Eye that goes back to like maybe June or sometime in the summer of 2024.
Which I think technically took place pre-flood.
Okay.
I think that story took place pre-flood is what we had.
Yeah.
City State Private Eye. Yeah. So what story elements do you guys have this week?
I have unique vehicle.
I have wild card.
And I have unique weapon. Does someone want to go first? We kind of need to establish a hero or a hero group or something.
I'd like to put mine in first because it's gonna go pretty quick, and it kind of might help things flow a little bit.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay. When I was thinking about the unique vehicle for this particular story, my mind locked on. Well, I was 12 the spring of 1964, so you got to understand where my mind would go in a deal like this. And I'm thinking of the psychedelic rock of the late 60s when I was a teenager kid. And I thought of the Beatles, the Magical Mystery Tour. And there was a big movie that was a total bust, but there was the album, of course, sold like crazy.
Right.
And then there were a number of that genre of musical groups that had to do with vehicles. That's why, the unique vehicle struck me, like Jefferson Airplane, which of course late 60s, and then they reorganized in 74 as Jefferson Starship, right? And of course Led Zeppelin, which are these, Iron Butterfly, these highly mobile but heavy, Yeah. And so that was where I went. So basically what we're talking for our unique vehicle is the Charlie triplets, mostly with the engineering genius of Mute Charlie, have built like the absolute ultimate tour bus. Now, okay, it's got wheels, but more in the way that like aircraft would have landing gear, right? This thing, it's huge, first of all. And by the use of sound and harmonics and frequency resonances, it acts as energy intensifier and amplifier. So this is an incredibly powerful mechanism, right? And it's very big and goes very fast. I mean, it has literally, speed of sound is its sort of normal operating tempo, but by building in harmonics of light waves, they can go to hypersonic speeds. And this thing can get around and carry a lot of people and a lot of gear. And the Mute Charlie was kind of the he was the genius behind this, and it just provides a mechanism for the Charlie triplets to function. It's just really great tech.
Cool. So it's all based on harmonics. That's how it moves around.
Yeah, and it's built around originally like around a sound system, because Mute Charlie, the way he communicates is through sound that he creates. Essentially, well, I'm going to say electronically, but it is kind of beyond electronics in a way.
Yeah.
And it also provides the power. I mean, and then it taps into the magic system, of course. Anyway, you see where I'm going with it.
Yeah, this would make this whole I'm really viewing this story more and more as a kind of like a rock opera.
Yeah.
Like we referenced Six String Samurai.
Yep.
That's kind of like more and more how I'm kind of viewing this. Almost to the effect that the children, like in an effort to increase in order to increase the potency, people have begun naming their children after famous rock stars and folk singers.
When has that never been a thing?
I know, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like they have, so it's not crazy to meet like a ton, like just like, oh, who is this? Oh, this is Ozzy. Oh, this is Ozzy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Ozzy. That guy's
Sting.
Yeah. I kind of like that. I kind of like that it's kind of like just a bunch of bards. This whole world is like made to like create bards. The unique weapon is a frequency modulator. If you understand how to work it, you have to kind of, because reality, like the laws of physics and things are broken, you have to know how it works, because you have to kind of positively affirm that it's going to function in a specific way. That's one of the things, is that like you can make a like if we lived out in the middle of nowhere where there was no electricity and you had a microwave, you could get the microwave to work as long as you like were able to like recite the steps and like tell the microwave to work,
Yeah.
Seth, just tell me if I'm butchering your
Okay, so I would say it would be kind of like this. So like the whole thing, because I didn't mention it last week, but it's kind of or last week or the week before, one of the times, with like it being kind of desolate, right? And I kind of thought of it again because Reed was talking about a bus, and I was partly thinking, do they have a driver named like Miss Frizzle or something? But no, but then I was going to also be snarky and ask if the wheels go round and round, right? The wheels on the bus go round and round and round and round, round and round.
Yeah.
The kind of the mechanism to it is more that, right? So the less that people are actually singing that the wheels go round and round on the bus, the more like the wheels are not going to go round and round on the bus. Not that they have to sing directly of its function, right? It'd be like what I was mentioning, I think last week or something, like with like the folk music. It's kind of what made me think of it too, was then like, the kids have their little like, red is a color. Red is a color. Things are red, and you can see that things are red. And it's like, red is a color. And you're like, wow, okay. And, that kind of stuff. You've all heard that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like apples are red, and, I don't know, fire hydrants are red. And, what else can you find that is the color red? One of them, too, then was like, it's kind of like the hole in the bottom of the sea thing, but it's, where there's like a bird in the nest and the branch and the limb on the bough of the tree and the hole in the ground, and the green grass grew all around. Right. So as more or less the music and the projection of what everybody's singing, and that's what like is happening, right? Less people are singing about how the grass is green and is growing all around, right? Kind of that comes out in some kind of folk music or just kind of stuff like that. And so it kind of wanes. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So
it's not like you have to sing about like the microwaves, emitting from the hyper reactor in the box and the whatever to make it work. But you could probably kind of achieve the purpose if you sang about that it did work. Right. This is a machine. It works and it heats our food. It heats our food, heats our food. This machine, it works. It heats our food early in the morning. Right. And so then it works and it heats your food. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
kind of
no,
on that
absolutely.
level.
Yeah.
So, but it's not like you have to use classic folk songs. You can use any. I hear what you're saying.
Right. You can twist it artistically and, make, kind of, a poetic way to say it. Right. But kind of that idea, behind, I don't know, like the grass growing and the rain coming and making the crops grow and, getting through the hard times or, like real hard times like drought or famine or, storm or pestilence. And then, the kind of the silver lining on the cloud. Right. So it's not that those things never come, but that's, what then it pulls you through and it brings the new thing about, makes it not so bad, makes it doable that you can pull through it. Right.
Right. Okay. Well, my thing kind of, I'm trying to think of how my thing would work then. Well, I'll just say it anyways, and we'll figure out a way to make it work. Basically, it is a system that can create, or it's two parts. Has a microphone and it has a speaker, and it's set up so that it can sample all sound in a certain radius, and then it can emit a counter sound. Are you guys aware of how like active noise canceling works?
Yep.
Where it creates, you just create the exact opposite sine wave and they cancel each other out, right?
Yep.
So it basically can do that. So you would bring it to a place and you could essentially stop people from being able to do this thing because it would like cancel out the all sound in a specific area. And I'm assuming we're gonna say that there has to be sound in order to for this magic system to work. You know, you have to be able to sing "The green grass grows all around, and that's part of it. It's not just like it's not just think "The green grass grows all around, all around." Is that correct?
Correct.
So it kind of is a way to sort of cancel it out. And I thought about a different thing as well. Is that people have begun to use. I don't know if you guys have heard it at all, but there's AI that can you can like say, hey, write a song about this thing, right? And then it'll like create a song about that thing. And these are songs you can now purchase that are kind of like spells. So you basically learn this song that this AI has been trained to make using the magic system, and you can like in the most efficient way say, and then there was a fireball flying at you, right? And it like it's a way that people have attempted to, instead of using like the folk music to kind of support the world, to kind of hijack the music system, the magic system, in order to kind of unlock a door. You know, it's like of course you could sing a song, I'm sure there's a song somewhere about unlocking a door, but people have like used AI to be able to create like the most efficient delivery method for this magic system. And it's like, it doesn't work as like a permanent thing because there's no like benevolent will or intention behind it, as like a Almost Heaven, West Virginia, you know, country roads take me home to the place I belong. It's like, it's not as steeped in reality as that song, but it's ways to do like unlock a door, or
Well, everyone knows to unlock a door, you got to paint it black.
Right. Right. I'm just looking at We Didn't Start the Fire by Billy Joel, or Rings of Fire by Johnny Cash, or Great Balls of Fire by Jerry Lee Lewis. Like, what in the world? What do these, or Firestarter by The Prodigy, or Set Fire to the Rain by Adele? Like, that's kind of terrifying. You know, all of a sudden, all of these songs that have these feelings behind them that kind of speak to a truth now can like be used. Oh, Fireball by Pitbull featuring John Ryan. There's one. I don't know. Disco Inferno by The Tramps. Anyways, Girl on Fire by Alicia Keys. That's scary. You know, I kind of like this. I think that like as our heroes kind of move forward, obviously they're a band or a choir, you know, maybe they come up. This is taking a much more kind of lighthearted view than I was originally thinking it was going to. This is taking, like, we're going to have to get so many, in order to make this movie, we're going to have to get like so many artists to allow us to use their music.
Yeah.
Not if you change it by at least 10%.
Right. Remix.
Remix.
Yeah. So that is the unique weapon. And this is not like a one-off thing. This is a thing that organizations will put near their systems in order to kind of stop people from being able to come in and, you know, just unlock their giant vault door.
Yeah.
You know, they'll set that up so that you come into a quiet room that like all sound is captured and immediately nullified so that you can't do anything. But so how do our heroes, I think that our heroes are kind of a like a band, right?
That sounds good.
I was thinking Quest and other bands and music stuff, and I was thinking, and they've got to get to Hollywood, except they don't know that it's Hollywood, California at first, and they end up finding the pick of destiny.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's so much music. So they travel so everyone knows about that the author lived in, where was it? New York?
Yes.
So at first everyone kind of, I don't think that they meet the Charlies right away. What's the trip? I think the walking trip or the bike riding trip or the horse riding trip from Charleston to New York City. It's got to be like a couple of hours, right? What do they do when they get there, Reed? Because like everyone knows that the author lived in New York.
Yeah.
And it's like we have to find the books of lore, basically the ways to become as proficient as this recently deceased rock star was.
So I'll try to bring my element in here, because it'll give a little bit of thing on the author. And I'm not sure, there's a part of it that has to do with the ending, but we can see how that goes. So I have wild card, which would be, I'm going to use random insert, which it's more of a random insert to kind of insert something. And I think then that's part of it will have consequence is the right word, but
right,
possible consequence on how it wraps up.
Okay.
So the insert is that the author is the scientist's daughter, right? Being he was a popular scientist, she basically used a pen name. She's the one that wrote them.
Okay.
But
cool.
all the lore about who the author is also another story that she wrote up so that, let's say, because her father was famous, and so that it, to kind of project out more fame from the family, she basically also created and paid someone so at public events to quote unquote take questions, but also is like less known. So it's not like a big deal, but if there had to be a thing, there was some old lady that she paid to pretend to be the author.
Right.
Who's now probably gone or, lost somewhere in the things, but was never really the thing. But the daughter was the author, and the other books, that are mentioned are in fact like what she's writing. This is what she's writing.
What?
Not that then it's like, oh, you closed the book and that was the end of the story. But under the same kind of idea of the magic system, she could be a character that is following them around, like writing out what they're doing.
Okay.
It's sort of like the arsonist will like hang around at the scene of the crime and be part of like the team that goes in to search survivors in the smoking ruins.
Kind of, and I wouldn't say villainous. Because even in the first one, maybe it was kind of nonchalant. She's writing this story about these things happening. And so it takes a fantasy kind of outlook on it, but it's shaping what's happening around. Does that make sense? And so then they use the book as the answer to the problem that was half created by what she was writing and projecting by writing it in the first place.
Right. So it's kind of a weird time travel thing. Not time travel, but a weird reality. So she must be some kind of, not a god, but have some incredible tap into this power if she was sort of able to create this world as it, she's the one kind of dictating reality is what I'm trying to say.
Kind of. I would say that kind of the way it goes. So I would say maybe she's someone in their group, right? And so like she'll be writing in her diary, right? And be like, wow, so here's something I want them to kind of face. And she'll write out, in advance different things that they come across and then kind of fills in the details later, which makes up the other parts of the story for these manuscripts of books that are supposed to go with the one that they already had, but that's what's being written. Although, I mean, you ever read one of those stories where they make reference to other work, but in a technicality, there isn't another one?
No, I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, I missed that. I missed that too.
So it's like having a book written that's like, the second book in the saga, right? And so they'll talk about, what had happened before, right? But you could never go buy that book off the shelf.
Oh, they're just creating it out of thin air, so to speak. And it's like to give
Kinda.
credibility.
Yeah, it's like creating or what is it? It's like the I don't know.
Yeah,
I know I
I've thought about this. I thought it'd be interesting as an author to write the second book in a series, and then you play it up, and there actually is no first book. The whole idea is that you create kind of this scarcity mentality because people are like, well, I want to find out what happened before, but they're like, there is no before.
Yeah.
kind of, but in this case, like whatever other manuscripts, there could be one, like whatever one they have could be like the third in the series. So what are the first two, which might not exist at all, you know? But
So
then
here,
there's already
I have
like
kind of an interesting idea. What if she is? I totally like this. I'm gonna try not to change it at all. Um, who? She has what's called synthesia, a neurological condition where the stimulations of one's senses involuntarily triggers an experience to another. So basically, she can see sound. The specific type is called chromosynthesia. Those who experience sound as colors, shapes, and movements. These perceptions are automatic and consistent, and the condition is not a disease or disability. So basically, her understanding, because we know that the more senses that the more senses you experience something with, the greater impact it has, the more you remember it, and the greater the experience is of it.
Mm-hmm.
So because she can both see and hear sound, and we'll say that it's I don't know how rare it is. It runs in families, which would make sense why the scientist would have like the ability to stop the thing. I don't know how rare it is, but we'll just say it's incredibly, incredibly, incredibly rare.
Yeah.
Right. And so it kind of gives her this ability to, because she experiences this thing and she's been experiencing it for longer than the disaster has been, she can kind of shape reality at a much more base level than a person singing a song about the green grass grows all around can.
You know, I was just thinking about the Charlie triplets. You know, we've got colorblind Charlie, who, because he can't perceive color, he is kind of immune to being manipulated by color manipulation, which is it is like a piece of the puzzle as far as these guys, the triplets being able to function. You know their whole the vehicle. I'm thinking more flying saucer than bus, but the use of not only sound but light and color, and I'm thinking that their movement is more slipping between matter rather than overcoming air resistance and gravity, so to speak. So that they've got a built-in like inertial dampeners, so people aren't suffering all kinds of crazy G forces and stuff. But what I'm thinking is that the fact that colorblind Charlie is has a defense, a built-in defense against color manipulation, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, I just was throwing that in as kind of like a interesting parallel thing going on here.
Right. Does that thing that Reed said or the thing that I said mess with your thing at all, Seth?
No, I don't think so.
So neurological scans suggest that people with synthesia may have more connections between brain regions that control senses. So she's traveling with them, sort of creating the story as it's going. Is she aware that she's doing this?
I think maybe she's aware now. And so I think that could be, I would say, kind of two things. One, because maybe she already has a set idea, because if you look at, let's say, like, if that was book 3, book 1 and 2, if you look at the names, it'd be like, if that one was, the great disaster and, the changing of the world or something, right? And it's like, okay. And then book, 4 would be, I don't know, like the hunter's, great quest. It's like, okay, that's kind of what they're doing. And then like the third one is like, the overcoming of the lone survivor. And then it's like, wait, what? Right. Not that she's purposely trying to kill anybody off. That I don't think that she's a villain, but almost kind of going along with this thing, and it's filling in the details.
So here is part of what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that at the end of the world, right, when the scientist did this, his daughter was with him, and we don't know at all what happened to the scientist, right? He, in quotation marks, he stopped this thing from happening, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then there was this rock star, and this rock star was able to kind of rally people around him and become this kind of front voice. But I think what we're seeing in the background is the fact that she empowered her father with the ability to do this.
Yes.
Right? She taught him because he found her book. And then for however many years, my brain says 15 years because that's enough time for things to start to change, but not change completely. I'm thinking that one of the things why they leave so quickly on this hunt, hurry, get out, is she basically in part pays this group of this band is like, let's leave. Like, I need your help to leave, right? And part of that being is that she wants, well, the question is, if she wants things to get back to normal, why doesn't she just make them happen? There has to be some limitation to her ability. She could just write and then everything returned back to normal,
Well, I think
or
maybe if
maybe
whatever is happening is already based in, I guess, the outline of this thing that she set into motion. And maybe that's why she's traveling with them, because maybe that she can't just write like in the moment and change something, right? Or make something happen, but still is having to fit this into a parameter and is kind of hedging the edges. Does that make sense? Because if she already had, let's say there was supposed to be 7 manuscripts, but there really was only the one, and as they're going to find the other one, right, it fits into what the next one was, right?
Right, that makes sense.
The hunt for the tome of wisdom.
Right. So she's established that the hunt has to take place, and therefore it has to take place because it's already been written. It's already been sort of laid down.
Yeah.
Right. Now, she never, let's say at that point, wrote how that was supposed to go. There might be some subtle references or whatever. But again, if what had already happened, it doesn't prerequisite except in the name, right? And so she's following them around, trying to help, let's say, write out what's happening by writing the manuscripts, but having to kind of keep in tone with what the next one. So if the next one is like the hunt for the tome of wisdom, and the next one is, the war at the end of the age, right? It's like, oh wow, I wrote these down, and it's like following into this pattern, right? So then how is she getting them through it? Obviously, it's coming.
So really, what it is it's a writer discovering that she thought she was an outline style writer, but instead she's a discovery writer, right? So she wrote an outline for the rough draft of how it's supposed to go, and now she's like getting her head around it and being like, I can't just take control of these people's lives. I need to like be there with them
and go with who they are becoming.
Yeah. Because there is a reality, I think, that she can't dictate how someone would act.
Right. No. Like,
she doesn't have control over reality like that.
An encounter with a bear tomorrow, right? They wake up in the morning and they encounter a bear. She can't dictate what they do. That's the filling in the gap.
Right. Because there'll be definitely irritation once people start to realize this. There's those people who don't want to be controlled. There's the whole question of ultimate control, free will, and all those other things that are like going to come up. At some point when this gets revealed and she is kind of outed, people will be like, well, why didn't you save that guy? It's like, well, I couldn't. I think about, there was this story, there was a movie, and Will Ferrell, I think, was the lead in it, and he was like led an incredibly boring life as a tax auditor, and he audited this bakery, and there was this girl, and they fell in love, but he realized that his life was like kind of planned, and he started to hear someone narrating his life, and he finds an author who's writing his life.
Wow.
And it's this famous author. But the problem is is that the author always has the hero die in the end.
Oh man.
And this guy's like, well, you don't get to decide. And she's like, she like kind of doesn't believe that she is writing his life, you know? And then she finishes the manuscript and gives it to him, right? And he reads it, and then it like has him saving someone, and he gets like hit by a bus or at the end. And then he is like, gives it back to her and is like, it's a good ending, you know, accepting his fate.
Yeah.
And then he goes and he does everything that because he read his life, so he knows what's going to happen. And he goes and he's pushes the little kid out of the way of the bus and gets hit. And then it goes to black. And then it kind of comes up and he's in a full body cast in a hospital. And the author is there, and they share some words about sometimes it's okay to change the end of a book. You know, that's kind of that kind of exchanges is kind of what I'm imagining as people start to realize what it is that she is doing or has the power to do or whatever, you know. So how does this story end? I mean, obviously this is only book 1, right? There's got to be 7 more because that's what she said there was going to be.
Yeah.
So
well, if this is the hunt for the Tome of Wisdom that they're basically enacting now, then something has to happen where then it's like they get to somewhere where then they're given the, you know, the tome, which is what they've all just done, right? Which then that is then how it would wrap up. You either have, you know, some of the people, this can't be, you know, I'm finding my own way, and they kind of break off, you know, thus then kind of those that stick to stay, then kind of like looking at what the next thing is, you know, and what it is. I don't know, you know, we don't, as far as I know, we don't have sequel. But that would be the idea, is that then, you know, this is what was set in motion, you know, so the next one will come about, and those kind of,
well, part of me is
willing
thinking
to be a part of it.
Part of me is thinking that maybe she should part of me is thinking that maybe she should die. Not because I hate her, but because that leaves, because all that any character that's near her has to do is just stick near her, and then things will happen the way that they're supposed to, you know. But like what happens if she dies, and there's like this moment where she has like her book with the rough outline which she's been filling in, and she kind of passes it off, and then after that they're going through and they're trying to hit the rough outline points because those things are set in stone, you know. The party arrives in St. Paul, Minnesota as the snow begins to fall, you know, and they're like, well, it's September right now, and if we walk there, we'll get there by December. No, I mean, we'll get there by whatever, you know, in 2 months. The snow's not going to fall then. So something's going to happen in the way. And so they kind of go off on this journey with like these rough points that they know they're going to hit, but no real understanding of what's happening in between. And maybe they start to write the story of their journey, but it's not the kind of set in stone power that she was doing. It's just a record of their journey now, kind of like a breaking out of the set in stone authorship type of thing. I don't want to kill off your cool character, but
I don't know, maybe she leaves at some point, maybe she leaves the group, you know, and they continue. How did I think of this here?
You could even have it where she is she thinks that she has to write down their story, right? She has to like watch over them because she's kind of taking control, obviously, because she wrote the outline for this. But she realizes that she is kind of, while she doesn't have direct control over their wills, she is kind of in control of their lives. And so there's like this parting where she's like, I have to go and write something else, you know. Maybe she finds out that she can like bring back life to plants and things, and she's like, I have to go and do this thing. I'll meet you in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Not St. Louis. Yeah. Meet me at the fair.
And then you can tell me about what happened and I'll write it down, rather than me being the one to kind of dictate how this story is going to go. Go and have your own story and then tell me about it. And I'll see you the next time you come up, which is the next time you come up is the story, the party arrives in St. Paul, Minnesota as the snow begins to fall, and I'll see you there. I'll be there, but I can't, this isn't my story. I I don't want to be the one in control of this. That sounds childish. I don't want to be the one in control of this. I can't be the one in control of this. I love you all too much to dictate how your lives go. Something along those lines. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out exactly how that would work. Some amicable parting between the two.
Okay, so get the Tome of Wisdom, which is basically what they've done so far and the outline to some idea, right? Passes it on to them. This is your, the rest of the story is yours. I don't need to sit here and dictate out what's happening. I can, what you have to do. This is a rough outline of where things go. It doesn't guarantee who's going to make it, who you're going to pick up along the way necessarily, or, whatever. But, I would be better put to use, say, writing stories about how much better everything is getting.
Right. Or the entire party dies, and now she has to go and she realizes that this isn't a series about one party traveling to all these places. This is a series about separate parties traveling to these places. This isn't a 7-series books. This is 7 separate books written about seven different groups of people. And now she has to go and find a different group of people. No, I don't like that as much. I like yours better. She sort of gives them the completed work. And then one of the things that's nice about it is that since she wrote about who they were and how they were, and she kind of set them in stone, right? It's difficult for people who live outside of the influence of this power because even parts of who you are start to slip away, but she kind of sets them in stone. She kind of makes them permanent, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And so then that kind of elevates them into actual hero status because they now can reference a reality about themselves that she didn't necessarily create. She just confirmed the reality. So now they don't have to remind themselves about how brave they are and sing songs necessarily for courage's sake, right? They don't have to use the power to make themselves braver because their bravery has been set in stone in these books. And therefore now they sing the songs about bravery to encourage each other and to help other people.
It makes sense.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Wait, It Gets Better. This was a weird one. This was a good one. I like this. I can't wait for the rock opera. It's going to be awesome. If you have any questions about this story, if you have any questions about any of our other stories, send us an email at waititgetsbettercast@gmail.com. Message us on Twitter at @getsbettercast, or pop by our house and say hello. I'm not going to give you our address, but if you can find it, I will definitely shake your hand. We will see you all next week as we discuss this story, discuss our thoughts and opinions about it, and draw our elements for the next week. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye.